It's just past midnight in Ouagadougou. The city sleeps under a thick blanket of silence, broken only by the occasional hum of a distant generator or the soft patter of wind against tin roofs. Inside the presidential palace, a single light glows. From behind heavy curtains, a phone rings, sharp, urgent, impossible to ignore. A voice crackles through the receiver. Low, focused. Mr. President, our intelligence has intercepted extremely worrying American communications. You must see this immediately. There is no panic in the voice, only gravity. President Ibrahim Traoré sits up in bed. He listens. He says nothing, just nods into the dark. Then, without a word, he begins dressing. The world he knew will not exist by morning. In the secure military command center, classified documents are spread across a long table, each one stamped with the unmistakable insignia of the Central Intelligence Agency. Others bear the Pentagon's seal, maps, budgets, transcripts, names, Operation Sahel Reset. A plan so audacious it seems fictional, until the evidence stares back at them. Phase 1. Economic destabilization. Phase 2. Psychological warfare. Phase 3. Regime change. Burkina Faso is listed as priority target alpha. Traoré reads in silence. His face tightens. His fingers press hard against the paper. He looks around the room. His closest advisors watch him closely. This isn't speculation, he says finally. This is war, hidden in plain sight. 2 hours later, the National Security Council gathers. Ministers, generals, intelligence chiefs. The air is electric. Traoré stands before them, the documents laid bare on the screen behind him. He speaks slowly, deliberately. We have been infiltrated, manipulated, prepared for collapse. Murmurs ripple through the room, then he raises his voice. But we will not fall. He pauses. I am ordering an emergency directive. All U.S. personnel must leave within 48 hours. Silence, then movement. Phones buzz, pens scratch. Plans begin forming. The countdown starts. Intelligence reports flood in, cross-referencing identities, financial trails, military records, 73 nationalities, 430 former military operatives, 180 with known intelligence backgrounds, all embedded in Burkina Faso. 125 work under the guise of NGOs. 55 are journalists with no verifiable affiliations. None of them should be here, and yet they are. In numbers that defy coincidence. Traoré leans forward. This isn't aid, he says. This is occupation. Across town, Ambassador William Henderson sips coffee in the quiet of his office. Outside, the embassy hums with routine activity. He checks his email, signs off on a report, orders another briefing. Everything normal, too normal. Unaware that less than 10 miles away, his name is already being read aloud in a presidential meeting room. His mission is over. He just doesn't know it yet. At precisely 2 p.m., the letter is drafted. Official, diplomatic, firm, to Ambassador William Henderson. It is with deep regret that I inform you of the discovery of compromising documents relating to American intelligence operations on Burkina Faso soil. The President signs. No hesitation. Sealed copies are prepared, one bound for the U.S. Embassy, another for the African Union, a third for the United Nations, and the final one for global media. The decision is made. Burkina Faso declares real independence for the first time in decades. Back at the embassy, chaos erupts. Phones ring off the hook. Screens blink red. Computers are wiped. Hard drives disappear. Inside the secure comms room, a station chief, known only as Agent Miller, barks orders into an encrypted line. This operation is compromised. We need immediate extraction. Outside, agents move fast. Files burn. Passwords reset. Devices vanish. Panic spreads like fire. They knew they were hidden. They didn't know how exposed they truly were. Word leaks out. Fast. Reporters pick up the scent. Social media ignites. Hashtags trend. Sahel Reset. Africa Wake. Crowds gather near the embassy gates, curious, suspicious, hopeful. Some chant, some film, others simply watch. Something historic is happening, and they're witnessing it unfold. Nightfall, Ouagadougou International Airport becomes a scene of controlled panic. Americans rush through terminals, luggage abandoned, documents burned, phones left behind. James Patterson, supposedly an agricultural consultant, tries to sneak onto a flight with forged credentials. He fails. Nearby, a freelance journalist destroys memory cards in the airport bathroom. Her network of digital influencers had spent months spreading anti-Traoré propaganda. She knows her cover is blown. Cars are left behind. Rental keys tossed aside. A mass exodus, silent, swift, irreversible. From the presidential palace, cameras roll. BBC, CNN, Al Jazeera. France 24. Traoré steps forward, calm, unshaken. Behind him, the CIA logo appears on screen. Today, he begins, I reveal to the world a secret American operation that threatens the sovereignty of all of Africa. Gasps echo in the room. Footage. Audio clips play. Names are named, the world watches, history turns, and Africa speaks, louder than ever before. Once a French colony, Burkina Faso spent decades caught in the crosshairs of global influence. Its landlocked geography made it strategically vulnerable. Its resources, gold, cotton, and fertile soil, made it economically tempting. For years, foreign powers dictated its fate from afar, first through colonial rule, then through economic dependency, now through invisible hands working behind diplomatic smiles and development aid. But in 2025, that cycle begins to break. In Ouagadougou, the streets whisper stories of independence reborn. The air carries tension, not of war but of transformation. This is no longer a country taking orders. It is one rewriting its destiny. He came to power not through elections or dynastic ties, but through the will of the people and the barrel of a gun. A former army captain, Ibrahim Traoré, rose during a wave of popular unrest. He spoke not in polished political rhetoric, but in the language of action, transparency, dignity, self-determination. His rise was unexpected. His message was clear. Burkina Faso would no longer be a proxy battleground for foreign interests. He promised sovereignty, and he meant it. At just 35, Traoré became Africa's youngest leader and its most dangerous threat to Western dominance. He wasn't just a president. He was a movement, and now with classified documents in hand, he is ready to expose the truth. Under President Donald Trump's second term, Africa returned to the center of U.S. geopolitical strategy. Officially, Washington claimed to support democracy, stability, and economic growth. But beneath the surface, a different agenda unfolded. Across the continent, operatives embedded themselves under the cover of NGOs, tech firms, and democracy-building initiatives. Their mission? To shape policy, control narratives, and eliminate leaders who refused to comply. Burkina Faso became a priority target, not because it was powerful, but because it was vulnerable, until Traoré changed the rules. They wore suits instead of uniforms. They smiled for cameras while selling out their own country. Politicians accepted payments to vote against trade agreements. Journalists smeared critics of American influence. Business figures funneled money to destabilize independent institutions. They were the quiet enablers of foreign control, until Traoré began dismantling their network piece by piece. Some believed they were doing the right thing. Others knew exactly what they were doing and didn't care. Now, with evidence in hand, Traoré prepares to name them all. The world will learn their names soon enough. This moment did not come out of nowhere. Years before, protests erupted across Ouagadougou over foreign interference. Students marched, farmers rallied, citizens demanded accountability. Leaked reports revealed secret drone bases. Allegations surfaced about failed coups supported by outside actors. Each time the government pushed back, only to face new waves of pressure. There were warnings, there were signs, But nothing prepared anyone for what was coming next, because this time there would be no silence. No compromise, only exposure. As the dust settled after his rise, Traoré wasted no time reshaping Burkina Faso's place on the world stage. He cut ties with traditional Western donors, refused loans with hidden strings attached, rejected military partnerships built on unequal terms. Instead, he turned east, forging alliances with China, Russia, and India. Not as clients, but as partners. Trade deals replaced aid packages. Infrastructure projects replaced conditional reforms. The message was clear. Africa does not need saviors. It needs respect. And with each new agreement, with each handshake in Beijing or Moscow, Traoré signaled that Burkina Faso would never again kneel. It started as whispers, then rumors, then fragments of intercepted messages. But when intelligence agencies finally pieced together the full picture, they found something chilling. Operation Sahel Reset, a three-phase plan designed to dismantle African governments resistant to U.S. influence. Phase 1, economic sabotage. Phase 2, psychological warfare. Phase 3, regime change. Burkina Faso was listed as priority target alpha. The documents were damning. Budgets, schedules, even names of operatives embedded across the country. It wasn't espionage. It was invasion, disguised as diplomacy. And now, someone had seen it all. When the final pieces arrived, Traoré read every word in silence. Then he stood up. No rage, no hesitation, just clarity. The scale of the operation was staggering. The betrayal absolute. This wasn't just about Burkina Faso, this was about Africa itself. And if no one stood up now, no one ever would. So he did. He ordered the National Security Council meeting. He prepared the directive. He decided to act, not just for himself, but for an entire continent watching closely. From Pretoria to Dakar, from Nairobi to Kinshasa, leaders monitored events unfold with growing interest. Some saw inspiration, others warning. If Burkina Faso could expel 700 Americans overnight, what else was possible? What other betrayals lay buried beneath diplomatic pleasantries? What other truths waited to be spoken? In Addis Ababa, the African Union headquarters buzzed with speculation. In Algiers, diplomats debated implications. In Accra, journalists prepared investigative reports. The ripple effect had begun, long before the first expulsion order was signed, because once the mask comes off, it never goes back on. As the clock ticks down, the world holds its breath. Diplomats scramble. Analysts speculate. Reporters file urgent dispatches. Somewhere in Langley, Virginia, a station chief burns files. Somewhere in Brussels, a minister debates damage control. And somewhere in Ouagadougou, a young president watches history unfold, knowing he has just rewritten the future, because within days everything about Africa's relationship with the West will change forever, and no one can stop it now. Inside the presidential palace, time bends under pressure. The war room is silent but alive. A hive of analysts, cryptographers, and intelligence officers decoding messages, tracing financial flows, and mapping out suspicious activity across Ouagadougou. A wall screen pulses with data. Red lines connect names, transactions, and locations. The web grows tighter by the minute. One analyst speaks without looking up. This isn't just surveillance. This is infiltration. Another points to a name on the screen. This NGO has no verifiable donors, but it's receiving millions from offshore accounts linked to U.S. intelligence. They are not guessing anymore. They are proving, and the proof is damning. Traoré watches in silence, his expression unreadable. Then he nods. "Keep going," he says. "We need everything." Across town, inside the U.S. Embassy, Agent Miller paces the length of the secure communications room like a caged animal. Phones ring, screens blink red, orders fly through encrypted channels. "We've been compromised," he mutters into his headset. "Langley, do you read me? We've been compromised." Static crackles before a voice responds. Confirm breach level. Miller exhales sharply. Total. They have documents, audio, financial trails, names. There's a long pause. Then, initiate extraction protocol. Burn everything. He disconnects. Turns to his team. Start wiping servers, destroy hard drives, and get ready to move. Outside, embassy staff moves with urgency. Some pretend normalcy, others vanish into side doors. No one is safe now, not even the shadows. Back at the palace, the National Security Council meets again. Tension thickens the air. Ministers argue. Some warn of backlash from Washington. Others caution against overexposure. Too much, too fast. This could isolate us. Internationally, one says. Another adds, if we release this, there's no turning back. Traoré listens, says nothing, just stares at the documents spread before him. Then he speaks, calm, sharp. They already isolated us, quietly, systematically, through influence, money, and fear. He pauses, looks around the room. Well, we're done being afraid. His hand slams the table. We expose everything. Now. Silence. Then movement. Plans begin forming. Press teams mobilize. International contacts are alerted. The decision is made. History waits for no one. Even as the palace prepares its revelations, another battle rages online. A hidden network of influencers, journalists, and digital mercenaries funded by foreign interests begins spinning narratives. Post-flood social media. Traoré is authoritarian. Economy collapsing under new regime. President suppresses free press. In Nairobi, Lagos, and Accra, fake news stories circulate. Edited clips show Traoré shouting at ministers. Misleading headlines scream of economic collapse. But something unexpected happens. People don't believe them. Instead, they share screenshots of the lies, tag them as disinformation, call out the sources. The machine fires back, but Africa is watching, and it remembers. Beyond Ouagadougou, in remote villages and border towns, strange things happen. Blackouts strike without warning. Drones buzz, overhead at night. People disappear only to return days later confused and shaken. Rumors swirl, whispers of secret bases, of men in unmarked cars, of payments exchanged in shadow. The government dispatches special units to investigate. What they find shocks them. Unmarked vehicles, hidden listening posts, bunkers filled with equipment. Burkina Faso wasn't just watched, it was mapped, catalogued. Prepared for what? That answer will come soon enough. Inside the communications office, a team works feverishly. Footage is edited, transcripts translated, maps annotated, budgets highlighted, audio clips cued. Every piece of evidence must be undeniable. Yakuba, the president's communications advisor, reviews the final sequence. This will change everything, he murmurs. Across the hall, Traoré reads from a prepared statement. Africa has been experimented on long enough. It's time we showed the world who really holds the strings. He looks up, makes sure every camera is rolling. Inside the U.S. Embassy, paranoia tightens its grip. Agents whisper in corners. Suspicions rise. Who betrayed them? Someone within the operation fed Burkina Faso the documents. Someone close. Miller interrogates his own team, cross-references logs, tracks access records. Then he finds it, an internal log showing unauthorized file access 2 nights ago. He curses under his breath. The leak came from inside, he tells his deputy. We were already compromised. No one feels safe now, because if they got the documents, they might already know the rest. With 48 hours left, the Americans move. Some try bribing border guards. Others attempt to flee via private airstrips. A few go underground, changing identities, burning passports, vanishing into the city. At the airport, tension builds. Passengers line up. Flights fill. Desperation rises. James Patterson, posing as an agricultural consultant, tries to board a flight using a forged visa. He fails. Nearby, Sarah Collins, a freelance journalist with ties to the propaganda network, destroys memory cards in the bathroom. Michael Torres, a businessman funneling CIA funds, burns documents in his car before abandoning it. They all run, but the clock ticks louder than their footsteps. As the final pieces fall into place, Traoré stands alone in his office. On his desk, a single document, a list of local collaborators, politicians, journalists, military figures. He picks up his phone. "Prepare the second phase," he orders. "We reveal the traitors next." His plan unfolds like a chess match. First, expel the Americans, then dismantle their network. Finally, show the world that Africa is awake and watching. News outlets prepare, cameras roll. Satellite trucks crowd the palace grounds. BBC, CNN, Al Jazeera. France, 24. Reporters from 47 countries gather. Social media buzzes with speculation. Has anyone ever seen this before? An African leader exposing a full-scale US destabilization. Plan? Live. On international television? No one knows what to expect, except that history is about to be made, and the world is watching. The press room at the presidential palace buzzes with tension. Cameras roll. Microphones hum. Reporters from BBC, CNN, Al Jazeera, and RT lean forward in their seats. Ibrahim Traoré steps into the light. He carries no notes, only conviction. Behind him, a screen flickers to life. Blank for now, then he speaks. "We are here today not just to speak of Burkina Faso, but of Africa." His voice is calm, unshaken. "But first, let me show you what America has planned." The screen behind him lights up, and the world holds its breath. A single image fills the screen. Central Intelligence Agency. The unmistakable seal stares back at the room, and through it, at the world. Gasps ripple through the audience. Phones buzz in pockets. Journalists exchange glances. This is not speculation. This is real. Traoré lets the silence stretch. Then he taps a remote. New text appears beneath the logo. Operation Sahel Reset. He looks up. "This," he says, "is the blueprint for our destruction." The screen changes again. Maps, budgets, trade agreements. Traoré gestures toward the data. Phase 1, economic destabilization. He clicks again. Footage rolls, diplomatic meetings, secret handshakes, leaked cables. Washington pressured. Our trade partners. Manipulated currency flows, engineered supply chain disruptions. He pauses. All to make us dependent, then destroy us from within. More images flash across the screen. Blacklisted exports, blocked loans, silent embargoes. This wasn't diplomacy, he says, it was strangulation. The next slide shows headlines, social media posts, viral videos, all fake. Traoré points to one. This network of influencers was funded by US operatives, paid to spread disinformation about my government. Another click. A video plays, a so-called political analyst calling Traoré a dictator. Another smear campaign accuses him of corruption. These voices weren't independent, Traoré says. They were bought. He turns to the camera. Africa must stop believing lies disguised as news. The room falls silent. Then a question pierces the hush. President Traoré, can you confirm the authenticity of these claims? He smiles. I'll show you more than claims. The screen goes dark. Then audio clips begin to play. Two voices, low, urgent. We need to neutralize the target. If he doesn't bend, we remove him. Final solutions are always an option. The room shudders. Traoré lets the clip finish before speaking. This, he says, is phase 3. Regime change. He looks around the room. They were ready to eliminate me, and anyone who stood in their way. No one speaks. No one dares. Click. A new list appears on screen. Dozens of names, photos, amounts of money. Traoré begins reading. Deputy Karim Ouedraogo, $340,000 to vote against Chinese trade deals. Click. Former Minister Paul Sawado, $180,000 to leak classified intelligence. Click. Military Commander Umar Diallo, approached with offers of foreign citizenship if he supported regime change. Each name hits like a bombshell. Reporters scramble to take notes. Cameras zoom in. Traoré's voice hardens. These are not just collaborators. These are traitors. He looks directly into the camera. To the people of Burkina Faso, your leaders were selling you out. Inside the Situation Room, aides rush to contain the fallout. Phones ring off the hook. Screens blink red. Advisors whisper urgently. Calls flood into Langley. Trump storms into the room, red-faced. What the hell do we do now? His national security advisor tries to respond. We're assessing damage, but assessing? They've exposed everything. He grabs his phone. I want that African kid labeled a dictator. I want sanctions, I want consequences. But even as he rages, the truth dawns. There's no going back. Not now. Within minutes, Shark Sahel reset trends globally. Hashtags multiply. Shark Africa awake. End neo-colonialism. Expose the truth. Videos of Traoré's speech rack up millions of views in hours. Millions demand accountability. In Nairobi, Lagos, Johannesburg, young Africans rally online. One post reads, "For once, someone told the truth, instead of hiding it." Another, "Trump wanted Africa to stay silent. Traoré made us roar." Across the world, the message spreads. Africa is awake. By nightfall, protests erupt outside U.S. embassies. Ghana, Kenya, Nigeria. Crowds chant slogans, "America out," "Stop colonialism," "Africa belongs to Africans." Security forces struggle to contain the energy surging through the streets. At the U.S. Embassy in Accra, demonstrators hold signs. "You don't own us anymore. We remember Libya. We remember Syria." Burkina Faso spoke. Now we all listen. The world watches. History shifts. Back in Ouagadougou, panic spreads inside the U.S. Embassy. Agents move fast. Files burn. Devices disappear. At the airport, Americans rush to escape. Some abandon luggage. Others burn documents in parking lots. James Patterson, posing as an agricultural consultant, tries to sneak onto a flight using forged credentials. He fails. Nearby, Sarah Collins destroys memory. Cards in the bathroom. Her network of digital influencers had spent months spreading anti-Traoré propaganda. She knows her cover is blown. Michael Torres burns documents in his car before abandoning it. They all run, because they know what's coming next. The fallout has just begun. The world watches. The story spreads. But this is only the beginning, because when one nation stands up, the rest of the continent listens, and Africa begins to rise. Addis Ababa, the headquarters of the African Union. Within hours of Traoré's press conference, an emergency session is called. All 54 member states demand answers. Cameras roll as the AU chairman steps to the podium. This revelation, he says, represents a massive violation of international law. He pauses, looks directly into the lens. Burkina Faso was not alone. Operation Sahel Reset was not just about one nation. It was a blueprint for control over all of Africa. Murmurs ripple through the assembly, then applause, strong, defiant. The message is clear. Africa will no longer be silent. In Beijing, President Xi Jinping watches the broadcast from Ouagadougou with measured interest. By nightfall, a statement is released. The world now sees the true face of American foreign policy, imperialism disguised as cooperation. Hours later, trade delegations are dispatched to Burkina Faso. Moscow follows suit. Russian diplomats offer military partnerships, infrastructure investments, and energy deals. Offers pour in like rain after drought. Ouagadougou becomes the center of a new axis, one built on mutual respect, not dependency. Paris, Berlin, London. Statements emerge, carefully worded, diplomatically neutral. We condemn any actions that violate national sovereignty, reads a joint European Council release. But there is no direct condemnation of Washington. No explicit support for Traoré, only silence where clarity is needed. Behind closed doors, European leaders debate. One minister whispers, "If we side with America, we lose Africa." Another replies, "If we don't, we lose America." They choose neither, and in doing so, they lose both. Washington, the White House. A press conference erupts into chaos. President Trump stands behind the podium, red-faced, pounding his fist. "Ibrahim Traoré stole classified American documents," he shouts. "This is an act of war." Reporters press him. "Mr. President, can you confirm the existence of Operation Sahel Reset?" Trump hesitates. His jaw tightens. "I'm not going to comment on specific intelligence operations," he snaps. "But America has always supported democracy in Africa." A reporter pushes further. "But the documents show plans to overthrow democratically elected governments." "Fake news," Trump explodes. "Traoré is a dictator who came to power by military coup." His words hang in the air, and then it hits him. He just confirmed the authenticity of the documents, without meaning to. Damage control? Failed. Disaster mode? Activated. Congress moves fast. Hearings are announced. Whistleblower testimonies surface. Leaked. Emails reveal high-level coordination between U.S. agencies and African elites. Names appear again and again. Officials, diplomats, even members of Congress. One email reads, "We need to ensure compliance. If they won't cooperate, we remove them." Another, "Operation Sahel Reset must remain off the books. No paper trail." The scandal deepens. Public trust in American foreign policy erodes. And for the first time in decades, the CIA faces real scrutiny. Across the continent, the dominoes begin to fall. Mali expels French troops. Niger halts joint exercises with U.S. forces. Chad freezes American development contracts. One by one, nations reassert control. In Accra, a young Ghanaian student holds a sign. "Thank you, Ibrahim." In Nairobi, a protest chants, "Africa awakens." In Pretoria, a former ANC leader declares, "What happened in Burkina Faso was the beginning. Now it is our turn." From Cape Town to Cairo, scholars dissect the implications of Sahel Reset documentaries. Papers are published. Debates rage. Operation Sahel Reset wasn't just espionage, says a professor at the University of Stellenbosch. It was invasion, without bullets. Students quote Traoré's words, "Africa does not need saviors. It needs respect," and they believe him, because for once the truth came before the lies. Young Africans embrace a new narrative: self-determination, pride, defiance. Songs flood the airwaves. Trump wanted us quiet. Ibrahim made us roar. Murals rise in cities across the continent. Traoré standing beside Lumumba, Mandela, Sankara. Rallies grow. Hashtags trend. Africa, awake. End neocolonialism. Sahel Reset exposed, and in every corner of social media, one phrase repeats itself like a heartbeat: Africa is watching, and Africa remembers. In Ouagadougou, the skyline changes. New towers rise, railways expand, ports open. Trade agreements with China, Russia, and India boost GDP by 23% in 6 months. Foreign investment pours in, not as charity, but as partnership. Local business owner tells a BBC crew, "Before they gave us crumbs, now they give us steaks." Farmers export crops to new markets. Engineers build roads with funding from Dubai and Jakarta. A woman named Fatima Sawadogo walks past a newly opened university. She smiles. Real independence generates real prosperity. 6 months later, Ibrahim Traoré stands at the UN General Assembly. The room is packed. World leaders listen as he speaks. 6 months ago, we exposed a covert operation that treated Africa as a laboratory for geopolitical experiments. He pauses. Today, Africa speaks with one voice: we will never again be anyone's colony. Silence, then applause. Minutes-long African delegates rise. So do representatives from Asia, Latin America, the Middle East. Even traditional U.S. allies clap, quietly but unmistakably. The balance of power shifts, not overnight, but forever. The dust settles, but history is still being written. The world watches, the dust begins to settle, but the story isn't over, because in Ouagadougou, a mural rises, larger than ever, and somewhere inside the presidential palace, a new directive is being drafted for the next chapter of a continent writing its own future. 6 months after the expulsion, Ouagadougou breathes differently. The streets hum with a new kind of energy, not protest, but purpose. In the capital's judicial district, courtrooms buzz with activity. Former ministers, journalists, and military officers once on Washington's payroll now sit in the dock. Transparency laws have been passed. Independent courts are prosecuting collaborators under the Anti-Treason Act. Citizens watch closely. Some cheer, others weep. This is justice, not revenge. And it feels real. Across town, a young mother walks past a newly built school. She pauses to read the sign, "No more foreign strings." And for the first time in decades, she believes it. Beyond Burkina Faso, the ripple effect becomes a wave. Mali expels French troops. Niger halts joint exercises with U.S. forces. Chad freezes American development contracts. In Pretoria, Accra, and Nairobi, leaders meet behind closed doors. They no longer speak in whispers about foreign interference. Now, they act. China and Russia expand partnerships. Not as patrons, yet as partners. Trade deals replace aid packages. Infrastructure projects replace conditional reforms. African nations begin talking directly to each other, without Western intermediaries. For the first time since independence, Africa leads Africa, and it is leading fast. Back in Washington, the fallout deepens. Congress opens hearings into Operation Sahel Reset. Whistleblowers emerge from the shadows. Leaked emails reveal high-level coordination between intelligence agencies and African elites. One message reads, "We need to ensure compliance. If they won't cooperate, we remove them." Another, "Operation Sahel Reset must remain off the books. No paper trail." Public trust in American foreign policy erodes. Protests erupt outside the White House. "Stop neo-colonialism." Students chant in front of universities. Former allies distance themselves. Even NATO members hesitate before taking calls from Langley. And at the center of it all, Trump faces indictment over authorizing covert operations in sovereign nations. He tries to spin his way out, but the world isn't listening anymore. Ibrahim Traoré appears on magazine covers. He speaks at Davos. He inspires youth movements across continents. His name becomes synonymous with African self-determination. In Cape Town, university students organize rallies under banners that read, "Traoré showed us how." In Lagos, entrepreneurs open startups funded by African investors, proudly free of foreign control. In Nairobi, young politicians run on platforms of sovereignty and dignity. Traoré becomes more than a leader. He becomes an idea that Africa doesn't need permission to lead, it only needs courage. With foreign influence gone, trade routes open with new partners. Technology firms rise in Ouagadougou. Agricultural exports boom to Asia and Latin America. Youth unemployment drops by nearly 40% in 6 months. New hospitals open, schools expand, roads connect villages long forgotten. A local business owner tells a BBC crew, "Before, they gave us crumbs. Now they give us steaks." Farmers export crops to China, India, and Brazil, not as charity cases but as equals. And in the heart of the capital, a woman named Fatima Sawadogo watches her children play near a rebuilt library. She smiles. Real. Independence generates real prosperity. As the dust settles, the world asks itself, how many other countries were targeted? What does true sovereignty look like in the 21st century? Is this the end of neocolonialism? Or just the beginning of its reckoning? In Geneva, UN analysts dissect the implications of Sahel Reset. In Moscow, diplomats draft reports titled "The End of American Dominance." In Beijing, strategists prepare for a multipolar future, one where Africa has a seat at the table. And in Ouagadougou, Ibrahim Traoré watches the sunrise. He knows the fight isn't over, but he also knows something else. Africa has spoken, and the world finally listened. 12 months later, Ibrahim stands on the Nobel Prize stage in Oslo. The room is silent, then applause, slow, then thunderous. He raises his hand. "This award," he says, "is not mine." He looks into the camera. It belongs to all Africa that refused to be a laboratory for the imperial ambitions of others. The audience rises again. Dignitaries from around the world nod in respect because they know. This is not just a prize, it is a promise that Africa will never again kneel. Back in Ouagadougou, the city pulses with life. Children study and rebuild schools. Farmers harvest new crops. Diplomats sign trade agreements in the presidential palace. A new mural rises in the capital, larger than before. Traoré stands beside Lumumba, Sankara, Mandela, a symbol of continuity in the struggle for African dignity. The message beneath reads, "Africa remembers, Africa resists, Africa rewrites." And for the first time since independence, Africa is writing its own future. Across Africa, the echoes of Ouagadougou still ripple. In Lagos, a young student scrolls through videos of Ibrahim Traoré's press conference. He replays the moment when the CIA logo appeared on screen and smiles. In Nairobi, a street artist paints a mural of Traoré beside Lumumba and Mandela. In Pretoria, an elder watches the news with tear-filled eyes. Finally, he murmurs, Africa stood up. This is no longer just about Burkina Faso. It is about all of them, and they know it. In his office at the presidential palace, Traoré reads a classified report. Sanctions loom. Diplomatic pressure builds. Washington threatens retaliation. He doesn't flinch. Behind closed doors, some advisors whisper of isolation. Others warn of economic consequences. But Traoré already knows the price of truth. He has paid it in sleepless nights, in threats from unseen enemies, in the burden of leadership. Yet as he looks out over the city, he feels something stronger than fear, purpose, because someone had to say it. And now, Africa is listening. Historians begin chronicling the moment, the day Africa stood up to empire and won. Universities teach Sahel reset not as espionage, but as invasion, invisible, strategic, deliberate. Documentaries dissect the operation, frame by frame. Books are written, films produced, and every one of them ends with the same question. Who would have thought the first true victory against neocolonialism would come from a landlocked nation of 22 million? Yet here it is, etched in time. In the markets of Ouagadougou, life moves forward. A farmer sells millet, smiling as he talks to a BBC crew. We used to be told what to grow, he says. Now we decide. Nearby, a teacher walks her students past a rebuilt school. They tried to make us dependents, she tells them. We chose dignity instead. On a rooftop in Accra, a young woman films a TikTok post. This is for everyone who said Africa couldn't lead itself, she says into the camera. Then she quotes Traoré. Africa does not need saviors. It needs respect. Her video goes viral within hours because she speaks for millions. Experts debate whether this marks the end of old world dominance or merely the beginning of a longer reckoning. In Geneva, UN analysts track a new pattern. African nations rethinking foreign military pacts, renegotiating trade deals, reclaiming control. In Washington, think tanks scramble to reassess strategy. In Beijing, diplomats draft reports titled "The Dawn of African Sovereignty." Even Moscow watches closely, aware that power is shifting quietly and irrevocably. Because what happened in Burkina Faso wasn't just political, it was cultural, psychological, symbolic, and now, irreversible. At the Nobel Prize ceremony in Oslo, Ibrahim Traoré stands before the world. The room is silent. Then he speaks. This award is not mine. It belongs to all Africa that refuses to be a laboratory for the imperial ambitions of others. Applause erupts, minutes long. World leaders rise. African delegates stand tallest because they know. This is not just a prize, it is a promise that Africa will never again kneel. The city wakes again, peaceful, proud, transformed. The same streets, the same people, but everything feels different. Children walk to school under banners that read, "No more foreign strings." Farmers plant seeds knowing their labor feeds their own country first. Businessmen negotiate deals without intermediaries. And, across Ouagadougou, a mural rises, larger than before. Traoré stands beside Sankara, Mandela, Lumumba, a symbol of continuity, of defiance, of rebirth. As the sun climbs higher, the final line lingers in the air, not just from the Nobel stage, but from history itself. For the first time since independence, Africa is writing its own future, and this time no one can stop it.